Hey, sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. PB, we just had kind of an interesting week. I mean, it started off last Sunday with the Joker losing to the kid Alcaraz in the Wimbledon, right? I get it, PB, he's 36. I mean, Rafa's probably done. Federer already retired. Djokovic, I mean, he looks healthy, but with a young kid like Alcaraz, 20 years old, and that kid looks tough. Could we have seen the last major by the Joker?
It could. I think it very well could be.
I think so too. I mean, this might be a change of the guard. And I'm not a Joker fan, so I'm pretty happy about that. So we'll see. Hey, by the way, another guy I'm not a fan of, Rory. Last week he won the Scottish Open. Don't be confused, fans. It's not the Open. The Open is taking place this weekend, aka the British Open for us old timers. By the way, Rory went in as a favorite, but now he's down by 10 shots to some young hot shot from America. I can't remember the kid's name, but Rory goes into this thing as the favorite. By the way, the last time they played, they're playing it now in England. He won that one in 2014, coming off winning the Scottish the week before. So he thought maybe he'd go back to back like he did in 14. It's 100 years since he won a major, in my opinion. I don't think he comes close ever again.
Might be another good call. See,
we'll see. Speaking of stuff that's going to take place it's already taken place. It has a lot of drama behind it. The U.S. Women's World Cup. The Women's World Cup, and the U.S. Americans are out there. They won last night against Vietnam 3-0. You know what? Why does Megan Rapinoe get so much airtime? I mean, she's not a Mia Hamm. Come on, enough is enough with Megan Rapinoe. By the way, she's retiring. Thank God. I'm kind of fed up with her. Do you think the Americans three-peat?
they have the tools and they have the weapons. They have the athletes. I don't see any reasons why they can't. I mean, they looked kind of sloppy. I watched just the highlights this morning, and they had a lot of chances and they didn't capitalize on them. They still took care of business, but
we'll see. By the way, China, who's sometimes a nemesis to them, already lost this morning to Denmark. So that's good news for the Americans. Now they got to hope Japan loses too. Hey, speaking of soccer, big events down there in your land, right? Messi. I like to call him Lionel because that's how it's spelled in my opinion, but it's Lionel. He's playing down there, right? Oh, Lionel Messi, I'm sorry. He won last night, and in extras, he had the game-winning penalty kick or free kick or whatever it was, right? Won the game, and Miami now who's in dead last, has been horrible for years. All of a sudden feels pretty good, right?
Oh my God, it's a huge buzz down here. They're actually building a new stadium for Miami FC, and I'll tell you, tickets you can get in there for $30 to $40 before. Now tickets are $300 to $400 to get into a Miami FC game. It's insane.
Wow. Yeah. What an investment.
But the new stadium's going to go down in the Coral Gables area. Right now, they're actually don't play too far from where I live, like 15, 20 minutes, but they're going to move further down towards Coral Gables.
All right. Well, they'll do well there. Hey, MLB, can you believe this? Yankees are in dead last. And the O's are threatening for first. They were in first for a day, and then they went back. They're playing the Rays right now. But better chance that the Yankees come in last or the O's win the division. What do you think?
That's a tough one. I think the O's have the horses. I'm seeing some of these starters now, like Kramer and Bradish, who pitched the other day. Pitched well enough to win, but didn't get the win. He got taken out in like the 6th or 7th inning, only letting up a run or two. I think they have the staff. I think they have the horses. I think they can do it. I would say the Orioles finishing first is a better chance.
Okay. I'm with you on that one, man. It's good to see. Good to see. Hey,
can I say one thing about my baseball predictions too? When we did our preview show,
I
said, and I think you had both these teams in, and I said my bold prediction this year is both the Mets and the Yankees don't make the playoffs. With a 7-team playoff, that seemed like a big stretch. Both those teams right now aren't even sniffing the playoffs, so I love it.
No. By the way, the Mets are playing the Sox this weekend.
Yeah, suspended game yesterday, right?
Yeah, last night got rained out in the 4th inning, right? So we'll see. Hey, speaking of New York, Saquon Barkley did not sign for his franchise, right?
Yeah.
$10 million contract. As Taylor Swift says, Saquon, you are never getting back together with the Giants, in my opinion, if you don't sign. You're done. And by the way, I think if he pulls a Le'Veon Bell and sits out, it's going to be the same exact thing.
I agree
career's
100%
over.
with you. I think it's detrimental to your career when you hold out and don't play for an entire season. It's just
As a running back, especially.
right. When your shelf life is shorter than other players. So I the greed, I don't know what it is. If he doesn't agree with management, then let's put a trade together. Let's get something for him while we can, and not play this cat and mouse game. I just think
Well, they can't even trade him unless he signs the offer, the franchise tag.
Yeah, they got to come up with something. They got to come up with a plan, because right now it's used. And he even said on the show, he was on some money talk show, right? And
yeah, he said he's going to sit out if he doesn't get paid.
Yeah, he's like, F you. He's like, I could get up and say just F you to my teammates and F you to this and just get up. And, he goes, will I do that though? Probably not, I don't know. I don't trust him right now. I don't trust him to play. I really don't.
No, we're going to talk that. We'll get to that division in a couple of weeks. But today we're going to talk the AFC North. And this one is, this division is going to be interesting. I can't wait to hear your perspective on it. Let's start out with the Ravens, who were 10-7 last year. They signed Lamar to that outrageous freaking contract. As you and I both say, when you sign a contract like that, you never live up to the expectations. So what do you think? What's going to happen with the Ravens in this season and their schedule?
Yeah, and they were 10-7 and one and done. And the year before they were 8-9. The good thing for Baltimore is the first half of their schedule is light. The second half's brutal. But the reason why I say that's good for the Ravens is because they can build momentum and figure things out. And then when it comes time to play the tougher part of their schedule, hopefully they're playing cohesively. They can obviously, hang their hat on their offensive line. They have a good offensive line. Defensively, they're also, ranked probably a top 10 defense. Those two things usually are a recipe for winning some football games, which I think this team will do. However, I'm still not sold on the offense. I'm not a fan of Lamar as a passer. They sign. We don't know OBJ's status. They have what's the kid from BC that they drafted, Zay Flowers.
They got Zay Flowers. That's right. They got Zay Flowers, OBJ. They already have Rashad Bateman, who's I think is a good receiver. Let's see if he lives up to some of the hype.
Right, but he hasn't busted out like he is supposed to. Now he was drafting that big wide receiver class,
correct.
But he still, hasn't shown what some of those other receivers that came out of that class have.
And by the way, they have arguably, in my opinion, I know people say, what about Kittle and what about Kelsey? But Mark Williams, in my opinion, Mark Anderson, I'm sorry, I think is the best tight end because he blocks. The other two don't block. Well, Kittle blocks a little.
Okay, right. So when you put it all together, and then you have like J.K. Dobbins. I know you're a fan of J.K.
He had a good year last year. He had a really good year last year.
And I'm not a fan of him either. So I just don't see this team being able to put up points and catch up if they fall behind and that kind of thing. But I'll tell you, Houston at Cincy could be tough. At Cincy's tough, obviously. But Indy at Cleveland, at Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Detroit, a little tough there at Arizona. But that opening 8 to me is a pretty easy schedule. Like they could go 6-2 or 7-1 even in that stretch potentially. But then you have these three games.
They got 3 of those games on the road, though. 3 of the first 5 are on the road. Road games in the NFL are always a challenge.
Right, especially all 3 of those are divisional games too.
Yeah.
But then you have this stretch here. This 3-game stretch at home is their season, because then they're going to turn into their tougher part of their schedule. They have Seattle, Cleveland, and Cincinnati, 3 games in a row at home. If they can win 2 out of those 3 games, I think they can maybe sniff 10 wins. If they can win 2 out of those 3 games. I don't think they can, though. Then you are at the Chargers. You got the Rams at home. That's probably winnable. Then at Jacksonville and at San Francisco back-to-back weeks. Then you got to come back home and play a Miami team that could be right there in the mix fighting for the playoffs as well. And then you finish up with a Pittsburgh team that should be an easy win for them at the end of the year. But I'm looking at that stretch, and that's tough. So in the end, I see this team, ending up a little over 500. I was wanting to go 10-7, but at the end I just came out with 9-8. So 9-8 is my record for them. By the way, under over in Vegas, you can get 9.5, you can get 10.5, depending on how much you want to lay. But right now, the best bet I see on the book with Caesars under 9.5 wins is plus 140. So you bet 100 to make 140. Under 9.5, I have them at 9-8. If I can get plus 140 and bet the under, I'm all over it. So that's where I am with the
As
Raiders.
Chef Saturday likes to say, you must be high. These guys are going 11-6. I mean, once they get through that first tough stretch, they're gonna, if they split the division, and I got them split in division 3-3. Road games, yeah, Jags, San Fran, LA Chargers are tough. We're not so sure San Francisco is a quarterback, so I'm not that worried at this point in time. And really, Miami is a tough game, but it's here. Seattle's a tough game, but it's here. Detroit's a tough game, but it's here for Baltimore. So I got them going 11-6.
Wow.
All right, let's go Cleveland. Let's go Cleveland. By the way, and that wins the division, maybe. Well, no, actually, I take it back. I forgot about Cincy. Let's go Cleveland before we go Cincinnati. What do you think, Cleveland?
Yeah, so here's another team that, it looks like they have enough to win games because, again, the core pieces of a football team, which is a pretty decent defense, again, probably top 10 defense.
Yep.
They can rush the passer. They have probably the second best offensive line in the NFL behind Philadelphia. That's another recipe for a good football team.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they have the skill positions wrapped up. They don't have, like, their receiving core to me is not impressive. If you have a 29-year-old Amari Cooper as your number one wide receiver, that doesn't scream, points to me. Chubb can run wild. But if that's the only thing they can do is run, they're going to key him, and his running might not be as efficient as we think it would be. Again, here I am in a situation where I love the under on the over-under wins. They have them at 9.5 as well. The best I could find was MGM is I'd have to lay 130 to make 100, which means that they're even believing that they would be under this number of 9.5. I think they're well under that number. I have them at 7 and 10 right now. And, until Deshaun shows me that he can lead a football team and win games in the clutch, I'm not sold on this team right now. 7 and 10.
I'm not far away from that, though. On the flip side of that, San Fran's here, so that's a plus for them, right? They have to go to Denver. They have to go to Seattle. That'll be tough. They do have the Jags, and they got the Jets on the schedule as well. I got them. The Tennessee game's key. They lose Tennessee, they're 9-8. They win Tennessee, they're 10-7. That's a split game for me.
Wow, but you got them over 500. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think this team is better than 500 team.
I'm sold on their defense mostly. That's why, but we'll see. I mean, you're right. The offense has got a lot of question marks, especially the wide receiver room. So, all right, let's talk Cincinnati. They get all their offense back pretty much. So they looked strong. Got probably the best wide receiver room in the NFL. Joe Cool looks to be getting even better and better. They signed Orlando Brown to play offensive tackle. What do you think for these guys?
Yeah, and they're tied with teams like Kansas City, I think maybe Buffalo and others for the best under over win total is at 11.5. So a lot of people higher on them. I have them just a notch over that. I would take the over because I think they're a 12-5 team. Best odds you can get on that right now is on FanDuel. You can get plus 110 if you want to take the over 11.5. Here's the thing with Cincinnati. I think that they did what they had to do to get there. They're not the best defense in the world, but they have moments of brilliance, right? They have flashes of brilliance. And they're ranked anywhere in that 12 to 16 range. So they're like middle of the pack, just a little bit above the middle of the pack in terms of defense, right? Same thing with their O-line. Their O-line has been a big struggle. It doesn't suck anymore. They got Orlando Brown. They have Ted Karras, a former Patriot, too, on that offensive line. So again, middle of the pack. They're not great, but they don't suck. And I think those, even though I just said defense and offensive line wins football games, that's what this team lacks. But on the other side of that coin, and they don't lack it like suck lack it. They just don't lack it. They're not top level, right? But on the other side of that coin is they have the best offensive weapons out there, right?
Correct. That's what it is. Yep.
And they're going to score points, and it doesn't matter if they go down 14 or 20 points in a game because they will always be in games and always be able to come back. So I think Joe Cool, man, gets it done. I can see this team actually making the Super Bowl this year by beating Kansas City in a playoff game. So I got them at 12-5. They could go 13-4, but I got them at 12-5.
By the way, they play Kansas City, so we'll get a good test preview tonight. They play Kansas City the regular season. Hey, by the way, speaking of the defense, Their first 3 draft picks are probably all going to play big minutes. Defensive end Miles Murphy from Clemson, the DJ Turner, and then safety Jordan Battle. I think those 3 guys are all going to play on that defense. So to your point, the defense has improved, but when you get 3 rookies that are going to probably start, that says there's some holes there, right? Here's what I think. So the over and under is 11.5. I think they go 4-2. The only ones in the division to sweep one team, and that'll be Pittsburgh. They get the Rams, LA Chargers, Minnesota, Buffalo, Seattle. All those are home games, so that's good for them. They got to go to KC, so there's your really tough game. They got to go to the Jags as well, who are coming on. To me, this is a team that could go 14-3, in my opinion, but I think they go 13-4.
All right, I can see that. Wow, you got this whole team over 500. This whole division over 500. So
well,
far.
we got one more team left, and unfortunately, I want to be happier and feel more for Kenny Pickett, but I just don't see Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah, I don't either.
A tough division. First of all, they're gonna be. I had them splitting with Cleveland and Baltimore, but they could easily be swept by those 2 teams as well. So I'm not so sure.
Yeah, you're right. I could see this team going 1-5 in the division. They're over in Vegas, believe it or not, is 8.5.
I saw that.
Yeah, and you can get plus if you bet at MGM, the under is plus 125. So you actually bet 100 to make 125 if you think Pittsburgh will win 8 or less games. I love that bet. Probably out of all this whole division, that's probably my favorite. Here's the thing, Kenny Pickett. What is this guy really all about? He was supposed to be the most NFL ready quarterback last year out of the draft. He eventually got into games.
I thought he played well. I thought he played well for what he had. Don't forget, they have a horrible offensive line, and I don't think they did much to improve it.
Right. And that's the other thing too, right? Not a good offensive line. That doesn't do well for Najee Harris. Can he get back to his rookie year type running, or is he going to be like he was last year? Right.
Yeah.
Their defense, granted, it's not bad. It's probably in a top 10 defense.
Yeah, I mean, you got TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick, and Patrick Peterson's there now as well. Yep. Along with Joey Porter's son.
I like the defense. I don't like. I mean, they went out and got Broderick Jones on the offensive line, so a little bit of an improvement there, but still, they're middle of the pack offensive line at best. And then you look at the schedule. It's just I don't really feel good about this. The only thing that they have going for them is decent defense and Tomlin. Like those 2 things combined can help you win games. But I'm looking at 7 wins. Maybe they can get to 8 and go 8-9. They're definitely not over 500. So I think they tie for last with Cleveland in the division. They both go 7-10.
Wow. I got them 7-10 as well. I'm not tied with Cleveland. I think Cleveland's a little better. But I'm with you. 7-10 is what I see. And by the way, the only way they go 8-9 is if they beat the Pats. And we'll be talking about the Pats in a few weeks.
Yeah, and they got that game in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. Speaking of the Pats, we'll talk about them more, but they did not sign D-Hop. Everybody thought that was going to happen. And supposedly he was going to come back and play for the 2 Bills. But senior Bill Belichick did not want to pay him. That's all the talk in the local media, why Bill would not shell out the money to get the contract and get him done. So we'll talk more about that. Let's hit the South next week. We'll go. Unfortunately, the NFC South without this guy, this may be the worst division of football this year. We'll talk about that the next show.
I love it. I love it. We have 4 divisions left, so 4 weeks from now we'll be getting close to the ending of preseason. So we still have to do that. We got to do our college preview. We got to do our pro picks, right? And we got to do a fantasy show. So action-packed football for the rest of the summer from PB&Z.
Nice. All right, man. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.